Today's class is number 5, lesson 2, student's book, book A. And we'll start in section E. No, the audio recordings are already recorded for this. So I would recommend that you work through section E by working through the audio recordings and then checking your answers in the answer key in Appendix S. So let's go on then to section F, to the grammar part. And it's very similar in the Dahuki as well as in the Zahuti. I am going to look at the Dahuki text. So we're on page 30, section F, part 1, Introduction to Kurdish Nouns. Kurdish nouns are definite. For example, the book. They infrequently take the indefinite marker. For example, a book. See below in lesson 6 for more information. Kurdish nouns in their dictionary form are in the direct case. They're also singular. So kitab means book, and it also means books. So if you want to be really specific, you can just put a number word on it. Chor kitab, 4 books. There is no plural ending like the English S, books. Or a few Kurdish nouns are in plural in their meaning and cannot be used in a singular context to things that we wear. For example, berchavik, it means eyeglasses. Unlike English, a few Kurdish nouns are very logically singular, even though we use them with a plural verb in English. So, for example, jeans. In Kurdish, they would say the jeans is. This is obviously bad English, but it's good Kurdish grammar. Along that line, pantarun, pants. The pants is good Kurdish, bad English. Erzak, for groceries. The groceries is. Non, which is flatbread. You can make this plural. We don't do that in English so much. Give me 3 bread. In English, we would say give me 3 pieces of bread. But in Kurdish, it's very good Kurdish just to say give me 3 breads. And for the raised bread, you can say the same thing. I made 5. Good Kurdish. Like English, a few Kurdish nouns are non-count. You cannot count the grains of rice or molecules of milk, so it is therefore considered singular. This usually has to do with food. So the word food, zad, khorin, zad, shir for milk, mas, birinj, av, water, chai, tea, qahwa, coffee. And then please note that the yellow dictionary, the word list, has helpful sentences which put the nouns into context that you can copy for your own original sentences. Unlike English, a few Kurdish nouns are inherently plural, even though we think of them in English as being singular or non-count. So for example, whiskers or beard, we would say rah or rih, and you would say are. The beard are. That's good Kurdish. Think of it as whiskers, and then it'll make more sense to you. The whiskers are. Same thing with mustache. Simbail. And then there's this word karib for anger. It's not a very common one, but his anger are. Money, that's a common one. Para, the money are. So maybe think of it as bills or coins, and then it makes a little bit more sense to you. And shamik, popcorn, the popcorn are. Now, there are only 4 situations where a Kurdish noun can be modified in Kurdish. So you have ak. This is the indefinite article marker. So I have a book, kitabak. Now, we touched on this in the last lesson, the specific reference marker. When you say chia, let me find my whiteboard here. Chia, what is it? This is the specific reference marker. It's very common. Another way you could say jinka. That woman there. And here you have a specific reference marker, and here is also the specific reference marker. Who is that woman? We'll get to that. But this, we don't have it in English. So here we have like of Kitaba Ha. This very specific book, this book, like this book, this one. Like in English, we might say this book here, but this is not a direct translation. So it's, you just have to learn it as the specific reference marker. Another ending is called izafe, and these are the 3 potential izafe endings for noun phrases. So the book of him, or more fluently, we would say in English, his book. And that's written book of him. And we'll get to this. It's just an introduction. And finally, the 4th possible ending for a noun is an oblique case noun, and we'll get to that in another lesson. So the book of the man, or more fluently in English, the man's book. And that is here. Kitaba zalami. There's your oblique case noun ending. And we'll get to that. Okay, page 31. The gender of Kurdish nouns. Kurdish nouns are classified in 2 genders, masculine and feminine. There are more feminine nouns than masculine. Nouns which describe people take on the gender of the person they are describing. For example, there are not many patterns of gender, although all transportation words are feminine. So car, plane, train. So here's car. Sayora, it's going to be feminine. And all colors and numbers are masculine. If my dictionary doesn't list the gender, put the noun in an izafe phrase and ask your language helper if it's correct. Let's look at this conversation here. This is how you do it. So you're going to try to figure out, for example, what the gender of the word kitab phrase, and you ask your language, Kish Kyodrista. Kitabamen on kitabamen, which is correct. Kitabamen or kitabamen. And then your language helper or your friend will answer kitabamen. And then you'll know that kitab is feminine because feminine izafe ending. When I was writing my dictionary, that's how I figured out 99% of the gender of the nouns, simply by putting it in this question and listening to a native speaker. So your first exercise is to go through this list and write the gender of the nouns. You can refer to pages 27 and 28. Let's go back and look at that. So this is your vocabulary list. And here are your nouns. So of is going to be feminine, is masculine. So that's how you're going to answer this. Or you can look them up one by one in the dictionary, of course. Okay, do that. Pause the recording. Check your answers in Appendix S. And that's in your book B. And then carry on. Okay, now that you've checked your answers, let's go on with part 3, noun phrases. A noun phrase is a group of words which contains a noun. A noun is a person, place, or thing, animal also. A noun phrase functions as the subject or object of a sentence or as a part of a prepositional phrase. For example, when the noun phrase is the subject of the sentence, that looks like this. The smart boy is Zana. Kurezirak Zanaya. The boy who is smart is Zana. Kurye Zirak Zanaya. So in the first situation, we use the suffix form of izafe. And in the second situation, we use the full form of izafe. And the only difference is what you see in English. The smart boy or the boy who is smart. So izafe can act like a relative pronoun, like who or that or which. Another example of using izafe as a noun phrase is when it's the object of the sentence. Bring the smart boy to school. Kurezirak, there's your izafe, bina madrase. Or bring the boy who is smart to school. Kurye zirak bina madrase. And finally, a noun phrase can be a part of a prepositional phrase. Give the book to, there's your preposition, to the smart boy. Kitebe bida kore zirak. There's your izafe phrase. Give the book to, there's your preposition, the boy who is smart. Kitebe bida kurye zirak. we'll get to all of this. This is just an introduction. Descriptive noun phrases such as the created with izafe. Izafe is introduced in the next section. Page 32. Part 4. Izafe links two or more words together in a phrase. Think of it as the glue which binds a noun with a descriptor. So boy and smart. Or think of it as the hitch which connects a train engine with a train car, if you're more visual that way. In a sentence, izafe is either a pronoun like ye, which functions as a relative pronoun and has the meaning of who is, or which is, or that is. Or izafe functions as a noun ending, such as the E with a hat ending. Okay, so let's look at the chart here. So think of your noun as the train engine. And then think of izafe as the hitch, which connects it to its descriptor, which is the train car. Okay, so here we have with izafe. Ava kore ziraka. And here's your izafe right there. And this means this is the smart boy. Or, you know, word for word, it's this boy of smart is. Now, if you didn't have izafe, it would look like this. Of kura ziraka. And this as the footnote says, is the specific reference marker. Fe as a, E with a hat ending, or yay, or all by itself, yay, or ya, or ya, or eight, yate, or yate. So these little markers, these little hats, are very important. Okay, here's another example up here. Kur ye zidak, the boy who is smart. Now there, in Kurdish, this does not have a verb. It's just when I try to direct translate it into English that this is sort of how it turns out. And then if it's connected to the noun as a suffix, kore zidak, that means smart boy or the smart boy. There are 3 izafe endings and 3 izafe pronouns. The gender of the noun that is being described determines which izafe is used. So in other words, you have to know the gender of the noun that's being described. Az kore mazinim. I am a big boy, which also has the meaning I am a virgin or I am an unmarried man. So let's look at these izafe noun endings and izafe pronouns. And this, you just got to memorize. Okay, so if your noun that's being described is masculine, you're going to put A on it. And that's the sound of the letter. The letter is E with a hat. Or if it's a standalone pronoun, ye. If the noun that you're describing is feminine, which is more common than, it's going to have the ending. or ya. If it ends in a vowel, then you have that whatever. Or if it's a standalone pronoun, ya. You're doing this pronoun. Now, let's look at these footnotes here. The first, oh, here we go. Here's the two. Okay, as in all of my charts, the first, in this case, izafe ending option, like this one, or this one, or this one, is for nouns that end in a consonant. You would use the second one, this one, with the Y, for nouns that end in a vowel. And the reason for this is they don't want to put vowels together. And then footnote 3, this Y is a buffer that's used to separate some vowels, but not OU or U. And the Y is not pronounced. And for 4, both Jehukis and Zahwis say verbally ate or yate. But when they write ain with an N, or yain or yain. So when you're reading the Bible, which is in the Tehuki dialect, anytime you have a plural izafe, it's going to end in N, not T. When those same translators talk, they put a T on the end. So remember that you're holding in your hands. This is a book to teach you conversations and storytelling. This is not a book to teach you reading and writing, although we do teach you some of that. But the purpose of the book is to teach conversation. So when your language helper sees a book and sees this T ending, if they throw a little fit, just remind them that this is conversation. It's not reading and writing. And just ask them, how do you say this? How do you say this phrase when you're talking to your sister? Or how do you say this phrase when you're talking to your kids? And then they'll say it with the T, and then they'll get it better. Okay, so this chart must be memorized. You can copy it, put it on your bathroom mirror. It's not that hard. It's basically 3 endings, and then, with the Y buffer for nouns that end in a vowel. Okay, part 5 now. Here's how we're going to use some izafe phrases with adjectives. So when you have a noun that's going to be described, then you add izafe, and then as a separate word, you put your adjective after it, and then you get your izafe phrase. So if we want to say smart boy, we start with our noun, kur, and we know that kur is masculine, so we use the masculine ending right here. And then we tack on our adjective, and we get kurezidak. Kurezidak. All right. Now say we use described. So we're going to end up with smart girl. Okay. So you start with kit, which is izafe and ending on it. We get that from the, and then you put your adjective. Kitchazi. Now, regardless, if it's plural, like bichik, then you're going to grab that plural ending, and put that on your word. So bechiket zidak. Smart children. So in the next exercise, you correct izafe and then check your answers in Appendix S. Note that some of these are plural, so be careful. Read them carefully. So here we have a plural one. Here we have a plural one. Here we have a plural one. Here's plural. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video while you do this exercise and check your answers in Appendix S. Now that you've done the exercise and you've checked your answers, you need to go to Appendix F in Book B, just making izafe phrases. Please note, use only the adjectives in the right-hand column. That's the first strip that should be there. So let's go look at that. So here we are at Appendix F in your Book B. This is the Tehuki version. And it's page 13. You've got your strips there. That's fine. So you have a variety that you can choose from. So let's just do the big words to start with. You can lift your strips up and look at the page itself. So kur. Kur is masculine. Now remember the whole concept of lines. When there is a line, you must stay in line. Don't get out of the line. And then you will automatically use the correct ending. After you attach your izafe ending to your noun, then you can use any adjective that you want to. But we're only using adjectives now, okay? So don't do any of the rest of this. Only use the first strip. That's bilingual. Okay, so we've got could. So we're going to say kure bash. Or I could say kure zirak. Or I could say kure mazen. Or kure bechik. You have a variety of adjectives there on your strip that you can work with. So practice some masculine nouns. And now let's practice some feminine nouns. Kitsch. Kitsch and stay in line. Don't leave this line here. That's there for the reason of keeping you on track. So this is foolproof. So kitcha of these adjectives. Good job, cheek. So go ahead and pause and practice some masculine and some feminine izafe phrases. All right, now let's practice some plural ones. So here it doesn't matter if it's masculine or feminine. In this case, they're all going to be plural. PL means plural. And again, stay in line. Do not cross this line, and you will automatically use the correct izafe ending. And then you can use any of, you can use any of those adjectives that you want to. Bosh, zidak, mazen, bachik, or whatever you have on your strips. Just don't use any of these pronouns or numbers or nouns or names at this time. Okay, so pause your video, do some practice. If you're working alone, that's fine. Just say these things out loud. If you want to write them down, that's fine. Write them on a separate piece of paper, and then you can check them with your language helper later. If you live with someone, you can practice, you can go back and forth and quiz each other. Say it in English, say it in Kurdish again. And then when you're with your language helper, be sure and practice correct pronunciation. Okay, go ahead and do practice for a little bit and then continue on with the video. Now that you've practiced with Appendix F, let's go on to Part 6, izafe phrases that use pronouns. Same principle here as before with the adjectives. Use a pronoun in an izafe. Their son. It must be an oblique case. Now, let's review our oblique case pronouns. Go back to the beginning of the lesson. Page 22. These are your oblique case pronouns. Let's ta, we, ma, wa, or hawa for to hook, wan. These are your oblique case pronouns. Now go back to page 33. Remember that the not the pronoun determines which izafe ending or izafe pronoun to use. So if you want to say their son, your kiss is son, not there. There is the descriptor, one, but it's the main noun, kur, son, that takes the oblique, that takes the izafe ending. And it's the gender of the noun that determines which ending you're going to give it. This will take some practice, but you can do this. All right, let's look at the little conversation bubble. Nergiz Kia. Who is Nergiz? Al Alamea. And feminine friend of all. She is a smart teacher. Now, just a cultural note here. Men, time you're referring to a woman, you're gonna always want to say that she is a friend and use or you don't want to say she is my friend, because that has the connotation of girlfriend, and girlfriend to our Kurdish people has the connotation of, we see that in our movies, men sleep with women that they're not married to all the time, and that's what the girlfriend means in their eyes. Be really careful when you're talking about your teammate, whether it's a married woman or a single woman, and you're referring to her by herself, and the same is true, ladies, whenever you talk about a man, whether he's married or not. He is not my friend, he is our friend, or he is a friend of mine. And then you use the uk. In that case, it would be ake, but uk means a friend. Okay, so that's really, really important. And then let's say that you're actually dating somebody. Well, you're probably not going to advertise that to your Kurdish friends because they simply don't understand the concept of dating. They understand what they see on television and in our movies that they watch, and you don't want them to think that you're sleeping with that person until you get married. Even if you're engaged, that's a little bit different because then you have a different word for that. You have fiance, and you can say that. But when you're just dating and you're not engaged yet, I would keep that under wraps and just say a friend, just to protect your reputation. That's pretty important. All right, so here we are. We're going to work with some nouns, and we're going to modify those nouns with a pronoun, okay? So again, the gender of the noun is what determines which izafe ending we're going to take. So son of them, or their son, which is the more familiar way of saying it in English, kure, and then wan. And I double underline my oblique case pronouns pretty consistently so that you can see that that's an oblique case pronoun or noun or phrase in the third example here. So here's the second one, kitch. Kitch is feminine, so it's going to take the kitcha ending. Kitcha ma, our daughter. If we want to say her big children, we have to use two kinds of izafe. So in the first situation, we're going to say b'chikate way, and then we're going to use the standalone izafe pronoun yate mazan. And literally this means b'chikate way means children of her, and then yate means of or who are or something like that, who are big, mazan. And that's the way you do it when you have two or more adjectives. So you could carry on. You could say her big children, children of her who are big, who are American, who are tall, who are strong, who are brave, who are, and you could carry on and on and on. And each time you would say yate after the first one. The first one is going to be connected, and then all the others have the standalone pronoun before the adjective. All right, and then finally, here you have an example where you don't use the noun. You just say, like, you don't actually use the word they, but like, I'm talking about which children am I talking about? Yate way, hers. So the children of hers, but I don't say children. I just say yate, and that's where you have that standalone plural izafe pronoun, yate, yate way. Okay, let's look at some more examples. Zana Kia, who is Zana? Zana ko. So here's your verb is, and the phrase is their son. Son of them. Them is one. Bahar Kia. Bahar kitcha mea. Kitcha ma, and then the verb ya is. Now you say, but you said mea. Why is that? The reason for that is the same as when you have a chia. This I sounds like chia. It sounds like an I with a hat. And in this situation, kitcha maya, maya, when you have that Y that follows an E at the end of a word, that E turns into the sound of an E with a hat, kitcha maya. But it's not written that way. it's written without the hat because the word for hour is ma. It's just that when ma is followed by ya, which it is because it ends in a vowel, it turns into me. Who are these children? Of Bachika Kina. Now this is the specific reference marker. That is not Izafe. These are her children. So this is these. And then children of her are. These are her children. All right, now let's look at this down here. Ye Kea. Whose is this? So this standalone Izafe pronoun can stand in the place of the question word whose if you connect it with a gender. So this is masculine. So let's say I'm holding up a pen, and a pen is qalam, and qalam is masculine. So I can hold up my pen, and I can ask the group in the room, Ye Kea, whose is this? Whose is this pen? Okay. Same is true with a feminine something, a book. Book is feminine, so I can hold up the book, and I can say, Ya Kea, whose is this feminine thing that I'm holding up? And I'm not saying the word, I'm just saying whose is this, okay? And then in the same manner, you could say Bachika Yet Kena, or I could just say Yet Kena. Whose are these? Whose are these children? Yet. And then the response can be Yay, that pen, that masculine thing, Yay Minna. And here is your verb is. That is. There's your is. Mine. Min. Min is my or mine. Yay Minna. Or if it's a feminine thing, like a book, you can say Yahweh. It's his. Yahweh. Or if it's plural, Yet. Those things. Yet mana. Those are ma is our. Yet mana. And the na is our. All right. So following those examples, complete the exercise below. Pause the video, check your answers in Appendix S, and then carry on. Now that you've checked your answers, go back, use Appendix F again, and this time practice Izafe phrases using only the oblique case pronoun in the right column. All right, let's go look at that. Okay, so this time you're not going to work with adjectives. Instead, you're only going to work oblique case pronouns in the third column. Okay, so for example, this time let's say qalam, which is pen. Okay, so I could say qalame min, my pen. Or I could ask a question, qalame your pen? You don't need to make full sentences. I'm just asking for phrases because the sentences will come later. How about qalame we or qalame we, her pen? Qalame ma, our singular pen. Qalame wa, all y'all's singular pen. Or qalame hawa. Kalame one, their pen. All right, or you can work with a feminine item. Let's say Mamosta, and make sure it's a woman that you're talking about for teacher. Mamosta, Mamosta, let's look at the footnote. So the ya and Mamosta ya the ya ending is written, not spoken, and the noun ends with an ah. So mamosta min. So you write the ya, but you don't say it. It says more like the Zaho dialect. We don't write it. Okay, so mamosta your teacher, or mamosta we, his female teacher. Carry on like that. Go ahead and practice now. Pause the video. Practice using masculine and then feminine nouns that you're going to describe with a pronoun, and only with an oblique case pronoun right now, one of these. And then come back. Right, now that you've practiced singular nouns, let's practice some plural nouns. So choose any noun here. You could use para, money. You could use jilik, which is clothes. Pick a noun, bachik, children. Pick something different every time so that you get used to using different nouns. And then you're going to have the H or the yate ending. And then you're going to use your pronouns. Okay, so for example, poda. Look at 5. Put the ending on the last word of a phrase. So if you have hosh u bra, so brother and sister, that makes it plural. Then you have to say yate or yate ma, like our. Okay, so let's look at poda. Poda is money. Okay, so I'm going to say poda. Poda ends in an E, which is a vowel sound. Poda yate our ma. Poda yate ma. Our money. Poda yate we. His money. Okay, so practice now. Pause the video. Practice using plural nouns. Practice describing plural nouns with oblique case pronouns. All right, now that you've practiced with Appendix F, look at is the specific reference marker. And please note, this is rather advanced. Just study this to recognize the and you'll hear it the more you practice Kurdish. This isn't something that you have to really try to do. It's something that after a while, it will just sort of happen. Or if you hear it, say like sayaraha ya basha, you'll be like, oh, that's that specific reference. Specific car, general car over there. So you'll hear it every now and then. Ha is not as common as the ending. You'll hear the ending all the time. For example, when you say va. Okay, let's read this. Just don't stress over this. It's not that big. The specific reference marker is either the noun ending or the pronoun ha. It draws attention to a specific noun. We don't really have an equivalent in English for this. When ha is used, it's usually in the context of an izafe phrase, and ha is the object of the phrase. All right, so that's where this example comes into play. Of Sayora ha yobasha. And in this case, it's izafe. And ha is the pronoun that comes after. This specific family, chezan, chezana izafe, min, this is chezana mina. So he's showing you a picture of his chezan, his family. Malama yobchika. Mala. This is your izafe. Malama, our family. And in the Dahuki dialect, they put ya in because it comes before an adjective. Yobchika. Sako doesn't do that. Chezana. Sami. You'll hear it. You'll get used to it. Note that the specific reference marker is often, but not always, used with of and ao. The specific reference marker is boxed in the examples below. So just to review your vocabulary, of means either this or these in the direct case. Ao means that or those in the direct case. And and ya are two of the to be verbs, which mean these are the two verbs that mean is. So go back and look at page 10 to 11 or Appendix C. Examples. Ava chia. Ava ava. We're going to describe that. Ya, Dahuki da. It's the ya in. Kishka. With this kind of, what are you talking about? And you have to pick up one and you hold it and you say avaha, this one here. Ha again does not mean here, but ye bosha. This ye is Dahuki, not Zacholi. That specific man there. Or auzalam, without the ha, ye bosha. And again, this ye is. All right, so complete the phrases. Check your answers in Appendix S. After you do that, study and then write a phrase using the specific reference marker used from it. And then check that with your language helper. Lesson. Next week we'll pick up. You know what? Let's just go on with part 8 and we'll pick up with section G next. Okay, so pause, do your exercise, and then unpause. When we looked at oblique case pronouns back on back to page 35. The reflexive pronoun whole is an oblique case pronoun. It is used whenever the same person is referred to twice in a, and the second reference is possessive. Whole. This is explained in practical in the next lesson, but not the next. So in lesson 3 of the book. So here's an example. Kurdish, you put yourself first. I and my sister are twins. So I me. So when I say this, then I say az u khushkaho jamikin. I don't say az u khushka min. Just, but you can do it. Whenever you parent, go home. Come with the subject of your imperative is you. It's either you singular or you plural, depending on how many people you're talking to. We don't usually state that subject. Usually, and when you are the subject of your sentence and go to your own home, you don't say mala da or mala wa hawa. You say mala ho. Hara mala ho. So in other words, you go to your own home. You don't say hara mala da if you're talking to one person. You say hara mala ho. And ho, some people might say ho. I would say most people probably say ho, sort of like a U, somewhere in between a U and an O, ho. Every now and then, you will run across someone who is hua, like they do in Kurmanji, but it's the same thing. I have a friend from Zaho, and she grew up in a village. She grew up in Mosul, actually, and she said ho, but it means ho. So I just say ho because my language helper said ho. Okay. You can practice using your F. You can use, or you only when you has a two-part thing. See, if you set out, it's wrong to say hoshgaho in a name or something like that. You would have to say hoshga min rabana or whatever. But because this is talking about in bad English, I and my sister. And the second situation here is and you use ho. Or indeed, this is an introduction. I will see you again next Sunday. So have a great have a great class, great practice time, have a good week. And if you have any questions about anything, just be sure and let me know. And I'm happy to try to answer that. Bye for now.